Now live from Melbourne is Sky News golf expert Bruce Young. Bruce, thanks very much for your time tonight. It was a great start today for the internationals, but the weight of numbers eventually proved too great.
Exactly right. Good evening to you, Megan. Well, we said last night that it was probably going to be a bridge too far, and that was ultimately the way it worked out. But boy, the late recovery yesterday in the afternoon four ball, and then again this morning, the fast start by the internationals gave us all hope that the seemingly impossible might just be possible. They led in 4 of their 5 first matches. They lost a little bit of momentum when Day and Allenby started to lose their way, and then the Americans, the more senior players amongst the American side, came home strongly and put the title to bed, if you like. But it was an impressive performance by the internationals to really get the crowd behind them, do what they needed to do early on day 4 of the event. It wasn't to be, but overall I think it was a pretty impressive effort by them to take it right virtually to the end of the tournament.
Look, so much talk leading into this event about the local knowledge that the internationals would have, but in the end you'd have to say it really did play a little part, didn't it?
Well, it did, and I always felt that it was probably being overrated anyway. These guys are the elite professionals of the game. They are playing in changing conditions week by week. And a lot of the international side weren't necessarily all that familiar with Royal Melbourne anyway. So I think the Americans showed that at this level, at the professional tournament level, PGA Tour player level, that any player is capable of adapting quickly to changing conditions. And they handled it as well as anybody by the end of the week.
Yeah, how would you rate the event's success overall?
Well, I think, Megan, it depends on how you rate success. If you were looking for the international team to win and really give the Presidents Cup an injection, it was probably a little bit disappointing. But I think when you consider that we had the opportunity to see 24 of the elite players in the world playing in front of 25,000 fans and on one of the world's best golf courses, then you'd have to give it a tick of success. It was really a golfing festival in so many respects, and it can only have done good for the game in this country. So whilst it may not have been the result we wanted from an international team perspective, I think the tournament overall was an outstanding success. Yeah,
we'll probably remember this one because really we're unlikely to see such a collection of players at the one time again. Who would you rate though as the standout players over the 4 days?
Well, I think if you're looking at it from a points point of view, Jim Furyk for the Americans was outstanding. I think he had 5 wins. From the internationals' point of view, Jeff Ogilvy and Charles Schwartzel both had 3.5 points. But I think really in many ways it was the emerging stars that did so well. Webb Simpson did so well in the matchups that he had with Bubba Watson. And Kim Kyung-tae, the Korean player, who has been very, very successful in Japan and Asia, and to a lesser extent in a few events that he's played on the PGA Tour, was a relatively unknown player when he arrived here. But I think he'll leave these shores with having left the Australian golfing public with a tremendous impression of a guy that's clearly destined for a lot higher than the number 24 in the world that he is currently, which is certainly a significant standing. But I think he's going places, Kim Kyung-tae.
Well, we've had the Aussie Open now and we've had the Presidents Cup. What is next now for our Aussie golfers?
Well, coming up next week is the Australian PGA Championship at Hyatt Regency Coolum. Several of these players will be heading back to the States to play in Tiger's tournament, the Chevron Challenge. But as far as the event itself is concerned, that'll be next played in Ohio in a couple of years' time. And of course, they take it to South Korea in about 4 years' time, which I think is a very positive thing for the tournament. You know, one of the things about this event, we tend to get a bit concerned about where it's going. But I think we should all remember that it took the Ryder Cup about 50 years before it became a bona fide contest. And we know where the Ryder Cup is now. It's probably going to take, I don't necessarily think it's going to take quite that long for the international or for the Presidents Cup matchup to get to that level. But it's still got a long way to go. So I think if we just be patient with this thing, I think in time it will develop into something even more special than it is now.
Yeah, let's hope so. Spot on, Bruce. Thanks very much for your time tonight, and no doubt we'll talk to you in the lead up to Coolum.
Pleasure, Megan.